Hi! Oh, I've been looking forward to bringing you this one. This is like my favourite game ever, and probably many other gamers' favourite game ever. And there's a reason it's so good. Okay, serious voice now, serious voice. Regularly brought up as one of the greatest games of all time, particularly for the SNES, Super Metroid is a masterpiece in adventure platform gaming. There's many reasons lots of people love it, and why it gets such good scores, so let's have a look at precisely why this game works so well. From the very beginning, just switching on your console and letting the game run will immediately set the tone for the entire game. You're introduced straight away to a tense soundtrack with something that sounds like a heart monitor, and what happens when you experience tension or fear or anxiety, your heart rate goes up, much like this heart monitor sound does before revealing the game title. Genre-specific high-pitched horror strings also put you on edge. The title screen has done a big chunk of the tone setting, with dead bodies littered throughout, the suffix Metroid 3 placing it in context, and a Metroid in a glass casing. You don't know why it's in a casing, or why the scientists are dead, and this sets the tone for intrigue. Starting up a new game gives a concise crash course on what has led to the events of the title screen, with Samus talking to us directly about the events as though they've happened to her in the past. Almost like a mission debriefing, especially given the military-style music accompaniment. All we see are her eyes, so we already have an intimate relationship with Samus, and we're going to go through the same experience together. We're given both the opportunity to bask in brief nostalgia and build up our excitement for the new adventure ahead. Using Super Metroid's new art style, we're shown the ending of the previous two games as a springboard into this story. A sharp cut stands us to attention, and we're taken straight into the action. Ceres Space Station is the intro level, if you like. This gives you the opportunity to get used to how your character moves. As you progress through this linear mini-stage, more of the story becomes clear. You approach the area in the title screen, but the Metroid is gone and the glass case is shattered. If the story has worked, then this should make you feel an emotional tie. The infant Metroid is what saved you at the end of Metroid 2, so now you need to save her. There she is! The absence of any music gives this scene a bit more of a lift, letting you add your own feelings. But that's cut short when a pair of glowing eyes reveal the presence of a dragon called Ridley. You don't necessarily need to be aware of who he is from previous games, but he's introduced here as a formidable foe and a direct conduit of motivation to you as a player, as you inflict a little damage and he smashes you around. This sort of thing is present in other games too, like in the intro to Mega Man X. He causes the station to self-detonate and flies away with the infant Metroid. A Metroid staple is a self-destruct countdown, and while it's used to greater effect in some games, and less in others, here it's designed to force you into making quick decisions to see how you deal under pressure, moving in such a way to progress quickly and avoid damage. You'll notice that nothing actually causes you any harm here, and this is so that you can still make mistakes and be able to reach the end of the stage. The game wants you to do well, and it wants you to learn. A little bit of special effects to top off this introduction sequence, tie up some loose ends, and we're now set for the rest of the game. We've spent around 6 minutes playing this game, and we've been introduced to the main character, the villain, we're caught up on events, and now we have motivation to play. A common element of Metroid games is going against expectations, such as making you progress left where most platform adventure games would make you go right, as was standard, and that's no different here. Inspecting right brings you to a wall, but the blocks here look different. Something to remember, perhaps. An ominous soundtrack and rain conjures up a sense of foreboding, which is another common theme in Metroid games. This planet seems dead and desolate. Inspecting around while there's no enemies gives you the chance to see where it is you currently can't go, such as morph ball tunnels and red doors. This tunnel that goes down is a great idea that I don't think I've seen in another Metroid game, and I'm not even sure it would work in another Metroid game. It is of course the original escape route from the original Metroid, albeit knackered and decrepit, and this takes you into Mother Brain's original boss chamber. This gives you an insight into the layout of things to come, both in the short term and the long term, as it both acts as foreshadowing to the end of the game and as a template for the rest of the game, in that you'll spend time backtracking through the same areas, some of which might change as you do so. And this original boss room and shaft is an early example of just that. So moving on, miniature instructions explain how stuff works. Of course, you're led to the morph ball through process of elimination because there's nowhere else to go. Further exploration eventually brings you to your first set of missiles, being held by those Chozo statues, almost offering this upgrade to you. It's a genuine discovery. You have to shoot through the floor to find this room, and the offering stance of the statue gives you the sense you're making this choice for yourself. You found this item, and you shall take it. These couple of rooms are, again, an early indicator of things to come, in that you'll have to search high and low for the next way forward. If you so wish, you can explore to the right here using your newfound power-up that you totally discovered on your own, and you'll be rewarded with yet another missile pack which you'll find with your newfound ability. You'll notice that when approaching the morph ball and these missiles, that there are searchlights that spot and follow you. They don't cause you any harm, but this is the first real sign of life you've encountered on this planet, and it's watching you. Do you feel relief, or do you feel fear? When you make your way back up, you'll notice that the elevator room is now brighter. Now you begin to suspect that the spotlights have indeed caught you, and everything is beginning to switch on. The boss room now contains a number of space pirates, both climbing and walking, and you'll be unable to leave the room until they're dead, which is why this guy is right here. You might not think to kill him because he's not in your way, but when you discover that you cannot leave the room until he is dead, you then learn that there will be rooms like this that require clearing out. The shaft back up begins testing you on things you've only just had a chance to get used to, so you'll be jumping, shooting and dodging, all of them precisely. When you reach the main area again, everything has sprung to life and a number of ways forward have opened up thanks to your new upgrades. When you finally reach this room with the morph ball bombs, something's odd, isn't it? There's an eerie mist and the door doesn't close. You get bombs. That's good. That's something new to try out. So you go and leave. Oh. Maybe this statue wasn't offering you anything at all. Maybe it was a trap. This encounter shows us a couple of things. It shows us that you now can't go through the game with any assumptions. How can you know that every statue you come across won't spring to life and attack you, having previously established them as non-threatening? Did you bring this upon yourself by being caught by the searchlights? How many other things are now after you knowing that you're here? How far does this thing go? Now that you have bombs, more ways have opened up to explore. This is how you learn through gameplay. This is how a story is experienced directly, and this is how you build a world. As you make your way through these early areas, you'll discover certain variations of enemies have different strengths and weaknesses. Some are only susceptible to missile attacks, some take more hits, and you'll generally find that in order to progress you'll have to solve a puzzle for that area, some of which have longer payoffs than others. And this is generally the wonderful open-ended gameplay that these types of games are praised for. Here, for example, is an area where you'll need an item which you don't get until much later. Obviously, speedrunners have learnt the mockball trick to gain access. And even when you make it through, there's yet more secrets to discover, and these types of very subtle discoveries are everywhere in the game. One big thing that's probably required for you to find in order for there to be a goal is this room. The room before has aesthetics seen nowhere else in the game, bringing back the mist from when you first arrived, almost perhaps a clue that this is the ultimate path you'll need to get through. The golden statue makes no sense initially. This seems to be the only way that cannot be passed with any weaponry or upgrades. You might recognise that Ridley sits atop this statue, and you will recall that he's the reason you're here. If this were a modern game, you might expect a text box to pop up and say something like, "You cannot pass here until all 4 guardians are defeated." If you're sharp enough, you might notice 4 glowing stones. Perhaps another clue as to how many encounters you will face. The beauty of this game in particular, and a reason that I think it's a popular speedrunning game, is that you can theoretically complete the game without collecting many main items. The game can very easily be completed without the grapple beam, but by gaining it you make areas later on in the game a little easier, but in order to get it requires some concentration, some skill and a hefty amount of backtracking. You're meant to get the power bombs here, so that you can clear the area here, so that you can get a run up to over here. Or, once you know the game well enough on a second or third playthrough, you know that you can get your first set of power bombs here instead. There are a few areas in the game that you might accidentally find yourself in, like here. You may have discovered the effect of speed boosting and their blocks accidentally right about here, but haven't discovered the shine spark. If you're willing to dedicate a few minutes, not that you have a choice otherwise you're stuck, you'll teach yourself this manoeuvre from the bird creature here. You'll notice that there aren't any official places that you need to use the shine spark throughout the game, apart from this one, but you'll find that you give yourself a different, exciting, easier time when you discover it. And this will also open up paths to hidden items. The same goes for wall jumping, which you can teach yourself via these creatures. It's a much more tricky technique to perfect, but once you've learnt it, it's yet another trick up your sleeve when you come to replay the game, making this section entirely skippable in favour of either shine sparking or wall jumping up here instead. Both of these techniques aren't required to beat the game, but it's a reward for either searching or discovering, and you found and learnt them yourself. Like I said about the intro stage, the game wants you to learn and wants you to do well. If you're not willing to search high and low, you'll miss on the things that will make you stronger and the next path forward. A simple yet incredibly effective moment is right here before the boss battle with Kraid, where you encounter the only other humanoid looking thing in this game, a dead soldier. You have no idea what happened and you're not likely to find out. It's a delicate, subtle choice to have this here, which could perhaps have its effectiveness lessened were it to be a modern game, perhaps with a piece of text that gives a backstory to this particular scenario. Something you might recall they did in Metroid Prime 2. When you start getting lost on your first run through, some progression requires some hefty searching and backtracking. For instance, there are only 4 of these blue one-way gates in the entire game, and to open these from the wrong side you need the wave beam. One of these gates leads into where you obtain the wave beam, and 2 of them only really act as shortcuts, so this is the only real one you need the wave beam for. Any other one-way gates in the game require the super missile. It's these moments where the game world can feel absolutely overwhelmingly huge, and it's another aspect that's designed to make you feel like the environment is against you. You might have to decide if it's worth fussing over to make some progression. You might learn that you don't need everything you find, but it gives you the sense that you're becoming stronger. When you pass through here at the beginning, these guys take a bit of persistence, but when you come through at the ends, you don't even have to think about them. As well as making gameplay easier, your upgrades and abilities will aid in boss battles too. You might have the high jump to get up this section here, making your boss fight with the enormous Kraid much easier, or you could use your abilities to skip the high jump and save time by going straight to him instead. Picking up the plasma beam might aid you in fights like the Golden Space Pirates and Ridley, but that room might pass you by if you forget to check back. Much like clearing a room of enemies to make the doors open, an early example of a boss doing this is with Kraid as well. You're forced to go past a door that is closed, and then once you make your way back after defeating Kraid, you'll notice it's flashing and now open. And this is the same for the door that goes into the plasma beam room, which opens only once you've defeated Dragon. There are some areas where, admittedly, the game seems to expect too much of you. This wall is completely fake. You can walk right through it, but scanning it with the X-ray visor doesn't show that like it normally would. Shooting it won't do anything, as you'll likely have the wave beam by now, and power bombs won't reveal anything either. It's the only wall like it in the entire game, so you're not likely to try just walking through it, so this will likely cause some confusion. It's also not particularly clear that the gravity suit negates the effect of the warm lava from Upper Norfair, which is required to pass through this area with the space jump. It's also not effectively clear that this is where you need to come back to either. These points, however, do point to the idea of playing the game again with this knowledge and speeding up your time, as taking the time to discover these things first try will likely reveal the bad ending. This game is empowering you, it's forcing you to get better and better until you can breeze through it within an hour and get the best ending, which, to be fair, is just Samus and her skimpies. No boss battle is the same in the game. Even these two bosses, which are technically the same thing, play out entirely differently. When you first encounter this guy, you can take him down with enough power beam shots and he falls easily with missiles. This golden version, however, will literally catch your super missiles and throw them back at you. He steps to the side to avoid your standard missiles, and you're forced to discover that your charge beam, if you found it, can cause a significant amount of damage now, and that the seemingly most powerful item you have isn't the most obvious. Phantoon is another example of misusing your weapons. Hitting Phantoon with a super missile sends him into a rage mode where you'll need to duck away while he's invulnerable. Coincidentally, Phantoon may be one of the more scary bosses not only because of his ghost-like appearance, but also because the stakes are much higher when facing him, as dying will cause you to restart all the way back here, as the save station in the wrecked ship doesn't yet work. Draygon can either be the hardest or easiest boss depending on your attack style. This game was so large that it generally came with its own strategy guides, and that's where you'd find out about electrocuting Draygon with your grapple beam using the broken gun turrets, becoming the standard option for the battle. But if you didn't have the strategy guide, you'd never know of the grapple beam trick, and Draygon would probably be the toughest boss battle you'd face. Kraid is also an example of some of the bosses having a weak spot, such as inside his mouth, but he also introduces a 2-tier attack, where you'll need to shoot him in the face to get a reaction and then pummel rockets into his screaming mouth. Botwoon will require patience and accuracy, much the same as Spore Spawn, probably why they have the same music. Grokkamire you can't even directly kill, he has to be knocked back into a pit by his weak spot. And then when you get to Ridley, this is the moment you've been fighting for and progressing towards since the beginning. He appears in the same way he does at the start, kind of like a calling card. You know what you're here for. Ridley is one of the few bosses without a weak spot. Hitting him anywhere other than his tail lands a strike, and you can hit him with anything you have. This battle is yours to decide, you can do it in any way you like. It's time for you to show him how strong you've become and how much you've learned. Your reward for defeating Ridley? A cracked, empty glass container where the infant Metroid was kept. You were so close. Surely you've got one final push to track down your prize for this game. You're now an onslaught of destruction, you're at full power. It's time to take a visit to that golden statue and find out what remains ahead. The game has an item collection percentage, so you'll be unlocking new areas left, right and centre, high and low. First time players will undoubtedly need a map, so hunting down map stations will be a must, and save stations and energy bays will be a godsend. The wrecked ship is the smallest area in the game, but it's probably the most atmospheric and thematic. When you arrive, it's dead and eerie, much like the beginning of the game. You'll notice that the themes are also very similar, but ominous, creepy drums now replace the brooding, foreboding strings from before. There are plenty of places which look run down and ancient, and it's this rich backdrop to the game which lets you fill in your own ideas. Back in watery Meridia, you'll have noticed miniature-looking Metroids with the ability to float freely through the air and drain your life energy. They were easily dispatched with ice and beam power, and were deliberately small. You perhaps might have mistaken them for the infant Metroid, but this is again another sign that you can't assume anything in this game. Friends are foes, and foes are friends. This is nothing though. Torian, your final area, consists mostly of full-size Metroids, and they aren't nearly dispatched as easily, and drain your life energy much more quickly. Just when you're fully expecting a boss battle here, you notice nothing happens. Very much a staple of this enemy is that you always have to think twice about what's happening. When he collapses to dust, you then begin to piece things together. The giant, indestructible side hoppers seen in the room previously are now dead, still and dry. This whole room is dusty and dead. Then, the biggest Metroid in the game, the Super Metroid, makes its appearance. You cannot run from it, you cannot harm it. You have to succumb to its draining powers until it leaves you with 1 unit of health. This is the infant Metroid. You found her, and she nearly accidentally kills you. So animalistic has she become. What has she been doing in the time she's escaped? There's almost a parallel the Super Metroid has with Samus. She's become a killing machine, giving no care to what stands in her way. The rest of the game is pretty much automatic, but it gives the illusion that you're still in control. When you force your way through the shiny new working version of the boss chamber from the beginning of the game, you're confronted with the beast that has been watching you since you arrived, Mother Brain. This is a piece of gaming history. This sequence is essentially a cutscene, put to use a second time in Metroid Fusion. It's the only time in the game when you lose control of Samus. You've become so immensely strong and powerful, and here you are struggling to get to your feet. It's difficult to die in this sequence, as once you get below a certain threshold of health, Mother Brain begins her story sequence, but the tension and fear you have from this mechanical monster is real. It's the helplessness which affects you directly. Just when you think she's about to deliver the final blow, you get this magnificent Lost World Clash of the Titans Godzilla set piece where Mother Brain and the Super Metroid battle for submission. The Super Metroid gives you your energy back, and just as you are given life, you see Mother Brain resurrect herself, and brings the Metroid to near death, when suddenly... kick in the heroic theme. It's both powerful and poignant. You've just lost a friend, but you've got a new godlike ability. Once you resume control, so begins the bookend to this game. Self-destruct countdown, and the escape. A significant arc-ending note is the escape back up the shaft, but this is the last time it will be done. If you're willing to explore on the way out, you'll get another poignant sign-off with the creatures that helped you learn your abilities as you helped them escape. Cue cinematics. End scene. This, to me, is why Super Metroid may be one of the most finely crafted pieces of video gaming. Some footnotes. Each weapon you get gives you a light chance to test it out in a safe environment, such as the grapple beam, plasma beam, ice beam, space jump, and man does the speed booster and shine spark give you some thrill rides. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything and what you find incredible about this game. And if you like this video, you know what to do. Okay, bye!